And welcome everybody to another 12 o'clock show with Mayor Joe. Joining us today from Truro Township, Assistant Fire Chief Bryan. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. It's a beautiful day, so we're going to make this as quick as possible so everybody can go back outside. Got a lot of good things going on in the city, but Truro Township is a little bit different, and your job is not the same as some of the other firefighters. So why don't you let everybody know a little bit about what your typical duties of an Assistant Fire Chief are?
Well, basically, I'm a facilitator. I'm making sure while the crews are out there taking care of the community, the chief's job and my job is to take care of the crews, to make sure that they have everything that they need, equipment-wise, facilities, and everything like that. I kind of oversee the budget and approve spending, and the overall operations of the fire department.
All right, the budget alone is its own thing.
Yeah.
I can imagine how fun that can be sometimes.
Oh, yes.
Especially when you're trying to convince some of the township trustees that you need a little extra money for different projects.
Always,
and
absolutely,
things like that.
Always. And we come to the city once in a while, too.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Well, but that's a good thing. So now that everybody's kind of, while it usually is a wet season, there are going to be dry periods, over the summer, things like that. And, people are spring cleaning and things like that. Do you have any really good safety tips that you think the community should be aware of, given, this time of year or just in general?
Well, I think the biggest, fire safety tip that I could probably put out there, and we just went through the time changes, the smoke detectors. Mm-hmm. Making sure that you have a working smoke detector in your home, that the batteries are changed twice a year or checked twice a year, spring and fall, like we advocate. But that is probably the single biggest fire prevention tip. And if you want, it's always a good idea too, with children and people that have small children at home, is to go over that fire escape plan. Getting out, having your meeting place, just like we talk about in the schools. The schools do the fire drills. They all have a meeting place. So it's good to do that at home too.
I know one of the things that we've seen since I've been mayor is, I guess you'd say not a large number, but a number of events where fires take place in a garage at some of our residential areas. Putting a grill in a garage or some sort of cooking utensils or things in there. While I understand, the need, it's covered. You don't have to worry about rain or something like that. Obviously, that's not a good idea for a number of reasons, right?
Correct. That's not a good practice at all. Cooking inside, I know with the grills or some of the turkey fryers and things like that. Introducing an open flame inside an area that's not designed for that. Your kitchens, you have your stove and your hood systems and your exhaust systems there, but the garage is not equipped for that. So those are designed to be outdoors, away from your homes. Sometimes you can go to a home and sometimes where they've had the grill too close to their home and then the siding's melted. So that's a pretty good indicator that radiant heat's not a good thing to have in your garage or an inclined area like that. Yeah.
Saw that firsthand not too far from where I live about a year ago. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. And I know you know this because you live it. The moment between the time that you see smoke versus the time that you see, a major flame is very, very small. Mm-hmm. But what was really interesting is how quickly everybody got out there. So my wife ended up seeing what she thought was a little bit of smoke, and then I went out and you kind of smell it a little bit. And then the really telltale sign, you start seeing people from the neighborhoods walking in a certain direction, then something's going on. Right. But by the time that we got from where we lived to where that house was, you had every local agency was already on site. They were already flying to get there as quick as they could.
Sure.
So with that, what are the typical number of runs Truro has, on any given day, month, things like that? Are there times that are busier than other times?
Well, we average about 20 calls a day.
Okay.
For service, and last year we were a little over 8,000 calls for service in a year. And typically there's nothing telltale what's going to predict a busy day, but there are some things that do influence that. Obviously the weather, when it's been cold for a while and you get that first warm day, we typically find ourselves be really busy on that. In the summer months, Fridays, Saturdays, weekends, kind of when everyone's home and things like that, so we tend to be a little bit busier. But
anything to do with, I know teachers and nurses always have a thing about when it's a full moon out, and people tend to be, for whatever reason, a little bit different on those time periods.
That is something that influences our call volume also. We are very much like the police departments. We operate in that same area and things like that, and the hospitals. So Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure somebody's done studies on it, but I will never doubt it because I lived it for so long. And now, especially in this, you do kind of find a way to chart how some of that kind of goes with that ebb and flow. So.
Yep. You're correct.
So one of the things, you mentioned earlier about working with the city on a couple of things. One of the things that we're working on and I know people who watched a while, we're working obviously on Main Street, and we're going to be synchronizing all of our traffic lights so that way we can have better flow. But in addition to that, we're going to be adding a new system that I know you've wanted for a long time. It's called the Opticom fire system, basically, or emergency system. You want to tell anybody kind of a little bit about what it's about and why it's actually such a good thing for emergency services?
Well, sure. Yeah. The Opticom system, it's a preemption system, which means that it'll activate the traffic lights, traffic signals in the direction of flow that the emergency vehicles are traveling. So that in turn increases safety to the community by giving them the red light, and in the opposing traffic, the red light, and increases our response times and things like that by allowing the emergency vehicle not to have to slow down as much for the intersection or anything like that, so they can proceed and they have the green light on their direction of travel. So, and that also has ancillary benefits to the police departments can utilize the same type of equipment that we use, and so can the street departments in the wintertime if they wanted to use those plowing snow or things like that. So it does have a lot of benefits, and some of the other townships, departments that surround us here in Reynoldsburg will be able to make use of that also.
That's one of the things I was going to say. I know Violet Township has it, and that's one of the reasons why we went specifically with this one is because we do a lot of work with Violet Township.
Yeah.
What I found interesting is not long after we started having these conversations, was a Reynoldsburg Truro unit damaged a little bit, in that I think it wasn't a serious accident, but
Yes.
it was still an accident
Yes.
because of the fact that they were going through a red light and somebody wasn't paying attention.
Correct. Yes, that is true. That happened down in Violet Township, down in Pickerington, at Hill Road and Refugee. One of our engines was in a collision. They had slowed down for the intersection, began to proceed through, and then was hit by another driver. Now that Opticom system, had we had that in place, I'm not going to say it was 100% preventable, but chances are
be a little bit easier.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we've all seen how sometimes people drive, and nowadays, I've been in cars where emergency vehicles are coming, and you're supposed to move off to the side as best as you can given the circumstances. And sometimes people do, sometimes people don't. And for whatever reason, even when it comes to school buses, I was just yesterday driving and right off of right off of Retton moving towards Stouter. And, a car was at a stop, getting close to a stop and just went right through as the little gate was coming out. So people are just seemingly in a hurry. And that could lead to something really, really bad.
Sure, absolutely.
Things like that.
Yeah, and another thing that, kind of builds on that is the vehicles nowadays are much better insulated against sound and things like that. So it does make it harder for folks to hear the emergency lights and sirens, or if they have their radio up or headphones in, like you see some people talking on the phone while they're going down the road. So,
which is a whole other thing.
Yes.
Now, I know the city's going to be picking up the tab for this, but it's with the help of the America Recovers Act dollars. So we're using those infrastructure dollars that the government has given us to do things, and basically when we were told about it, it says do things that you wanted to do for a long time, but for whatever reason, you just never did. Yeah. And so when we finally figured out, and again, dealing with local government is one thing, dealing with the federal government is a whole other list of things. Once we realized that, yes, we could use it for something like this, it was just an easy thing to do. So we should actually have our engineering drawings and our bids ready to go out, I want to say, by the end of next week. So as soon as we get that stuff in, it'll be there.
Fantastic, yeah.
And then don't ask me when it's going to be installed, because apparently there's a supply shortage.
Yeah.
Is there a question specific about this?
Yeah, they were wanting to know, is there any specific notification to the drivers with that system?
Like the actual drivers in the car?
Yeah, I think it's not really specific, but I don't think there's any notification other than just a light changing for...
No, but we do, on our equipment, we do have a system called a Haas system, and it works in conjunction with the Waze navigation app that will notify drivers that are using that Waze navigation app that there is an emergency vehicle in the area, there's an accident in the area, and we do get monthly reports on that, to how many people it did notify in the city and around the area. So yeah, if that answers their question, that is something.
Yeah, that might be something.
The Opticom system itself does not do that, but yeah.
All right, and there's no truth to any rumors out there that I'm going to get my own Opticom system and have it in my car so I can bypass. I know somebody made a comment about that. No, that is not a perk or privilege of the mayor in that one.
yeah, thank you to City Council, yourself, the trustees, for all helping push that forward, because that will be that's great. That's very big.
We hope to expand it as we move forward into other areas. There's a lot of questions about specifically that 256 interchange, the 5-way. There are a lot of people, about half the people are very much in favor of a roundabout in that location, and then there's half the people that are very much not in favor of a roundabout. So until we figure out that dynamic, I could easily see that would also be another location that would need to do it, just because of going right through 256. Yes. I think that would be the next logical place to kind of take a look at some things. Well, now that COVID is, and again, not over, but it's obviously what's not the same now as what it was in the past. Do you know if there's going to be any open house activities? I know you've had a couple of things at the firehouse that that was new, and I know you wanted to show it off. And everybody in the community, that was kind of a talking point for a while about how long it was taking, but I know that that's something you guys want to show off, because it is a beautiful building. So I didn't know if you had anything planned.
We do. We're going to plan our annual open house, and it'll be the weekend of Fire Prevention Week in October. Okay. So we usually try to plan it for that first Sunday of that Fire Prevention Week, and look to have it at Station 1 on Main Street there. So, and get the public in as a way to say kind of thank you, and see the new fire station and everything that COVID has delayed for the past couple of years. So, that's on the books. Now,
we got a couple of peeks at it. I think you guys did a drive-through, kind of like a trick-or-treat drive-through at one point in time, and because it's Halloween and dressing up, but it was nice to see some of the guys out there all dressed up and passing out candy and things like that. And we've done a couple of other ceremonies. I know we had a 9/11 ceremony there, which was wonderful. So it's a good way to continue to build that partnership between the city, the police force, the fire department, all the way across.
Yeah, and there's a video tour on our website if folks want to go there. It's at the bottom of the website. You can see it's not the same thing as being there live, but it's the next best thing.
And you can't go down the fireman's pole every time that when the guys come in. Okay.
No. That's reserved for employees only.
Yeah, I know. There are a few people, including myself, that would like to take a spin on that one. But well, do we have any other questions that have come across?
We did have one. She says, "Is there a timestamp for the roundabout on 256?" I missed what the mayor said.
Yeah. So that's basically right now we've had conversations in our Traffic and Transportation Committee, and council's kind of been asked about what their thoughts are on the process with it. And so we're trying to gather a timeline. Obviously, this would be a monumentally huge project that's going to take a number of years. There's a lot of things that have to go in place to get that. So we're trying to get a timeline together so we can lay it out to council, because there's a lot of steps. It's not like we can just say, hey, let's do a roundabout. There's a safety study that has to be done. There's, engineering, to kind of get a general idea of how it could work, if it's even possible, given the fact that it's got 5 intersections. Excuse me. So there's a lot of steps in between everything. Just pay attention, council, and the show, and when those times happen, we'll let you know. We are going to have, if we do go that route, there's going to be a lot of public meetings on it, because this is going to be something that will impact not only Reynoldsburg, but also impact, Pickerington and a number of other communities, just because of the amount of traffic in that particular area. Anything else? All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming in. I hope you can stick around for a little bit and kind of hear some fun things. I was joking with you earlier that Reynoldsburg is hiring, so if you wanted a little extra work to do, we do have some positions available in mowing, as well as some ball field maintenance and a horticultural crew and some of our facilities. If you're interested, go ahead and check out, while you can, the existing website, because we got about a month or so to go before we get a brand new website in, and that'll actually have a lot more job details. It won't just be jobs that the city of Reynoldsburg has, but it'll be other private businesses that will be able to kind of post and get job updates there as well. Did want to throw out a couple of things as far as code enforcement. Just keep in mind keeping your sidewalks clear. So if you're walking down your sidewalk and there's overgrowth bushes on the side, might make it hard for people to pass if they're, in a wheelchair, or if there's a stroller, things like that. So you want to kind of trim those hedges back a little bit, especially when we have a little bit nicer weather. This past weekend was great. Then we decided to go back to winter. Those types of things. Again, trash cans, try and pull them off the curbs when the trash is done for the day. Bring those back. And again, if you're walking around and you do see sidewalks, we do take, if you do have a complaint about a sidewalk, if there's a trip hazard, or if the sidewalk's just kind of starting to crumble apart, please go ahead and notify code enforcement. We'll go ahead and get out there and work with the property owners to get those things taken care of. So those are the big things. The last thing that has become a very big topic in the last kind of week or so is the return of the chicken debate. Have you heard of the chicken debate?
I was just briefed a little bit ago about that. Yeah.
So there are a lot of people that really want chicken, and there are a lot of people that don't want chicken, and then so it just kind of depends on what's going on. So currently, right now, there's nothing pending before council on whether or not to change our existing policy, which does not allow for chickens to be kept in the city of Reynoldsburg. However, that is up to council to change. So until that happens, if somebody has chickens, that is something that is referred to our office, and we do have to deal with it because you're not allowed to have them. So again, keep that in mind. But if you'd like to see that change, feel free and reach out to council and see if there's any movements on that. In the past, when the cities had the debate, the question was, all right, so let's say we do have chickens, who's going to monitor them? Who's going to make sure that the chicken coops are clean and all of the smells that go associated with it? So last year, we did find a way to create a position through our Parks and Rec department of kind of a park ranger animal control hybrid. So that position would actually be able to kind of go in and monitor and make sure, because if chickens are going to come here, you obviously want those chicken coops to be clean, because they can smell and cause a disturbance all the way around. One way or another, I'm pretty sure roosters are not allowed in the city of Reynoldsburg, and apparently there might be one or two random ones floating around the city. Not sure. That's occasionally the phone calls that we get around there. So kind of keep that in mind for a couple of those things when it comes to chickens. So with that, I'm going to kind of shift gears a little bit into sometimes what we call the joy of government. Government can be slow. We're not as slow as the federal government, but we're not necessarily as fast as we'd all like it to be. So when we come up with big projects, like let's say the Opticom system, or we're looking at road construction, which I'll get into in a little bit, things that happen are painstakingly slow, and it's not something that can be done just in a minute. I think our first conversation about the Opticom system was almost really about a year ago, when the first America Recovers Act dollars were coming out, and it took almost an entire year to go through a process of getting it through council, designing the engineering, and getting it all ready to go. And we're still not there yet. And that was for something that no one was going to turn down. Everybody was incredibly supportive of it. We know what a need it is. And it's not like it's a controversial item, let alone imagine something that is more controversial. So it doesn't always work as fast as what we want to do. So that leads us to some of the issues that we saw over the weekend, especially on social media, about some of our local businesses and what's going on with them. So first of all, let's just make sure everybody understands. The city of Reynoldsburg and myself are incredibly supportive of our local businesses. They are the lifeblood of our city. We have one large employer kind of in that L Brands, the Bath and Body Works, and now Victoria's Secret, but a majority of people that work in the city work in small businesses, and we have to support them, because if we don't, then that's the end of a lot of things in our city. So this past weekend, Pros, Tempe Taco, Vic's, and a couple of those other businesses on Main Street, were expressing a well-founded frustration with the construction schedule that's going on there. And thankfully, a lot of people went out this weekend. I had some conversation with the owner of Tempe Taco, and they had a great weekend. The sun was out, the patios were full of people, everybody was having a good time. So that's a great thing. So the commitment to small business doesn't just start with construction to make things a little bit nicer, but it started actually during COVID, when we had those CARES Act dollars. The city of Reynoldsburg, basically what we ended up doing is I went out with a stack of applications for grant dollars and went up and down Main Street, basically saying, hi, I'm from the government and I'm here to give you money. And a lot of businesses took advantage of it, just because it was something, nobody had lived through this before. So we ended up giving about $240,000 out to local businesses to compensate them for losses during COVID and things of that nature. So that kind of brings us to this Main Street issue. So I'm going to kind of go back a little bit and talk about how this Main Street program started. So in 2018, the city adopted what is known as a comprehensive master plan. So what they did is they got a lot of people from focus groups, and they talked to people at farmers markets and other city events, and they came together and created a document that kind of established what they feel the whole rest of Reynoldsburg should look like, what the Bryce and Main Street corridors should look like, what the residential areas, all those types of things. And part of that came about the plans for what ultimately we're calling East Main Phase 1, which is the construction that you're seeing now. So in 2019, so keep in mind, it's 2022 right now, but in 2019, we applied for an OPWC grant, the Ohio Public Works Commission grant, to actually put this program in place here at the city. So we applied in 2019. We were awarded in December of 2019. The following year, all of the planning and the engineering and everything else started that year. This is when we started talking to all the business owners on Main Street, from basically Davidson all the way to Jackson. And we talked to them and we showed them designs of what it's going to look like. We talked about the construction schedule. We talked about how this is going to be able to benefit businesses in the long term, things like that. And everybody was really much on board with it. Unanimously passed the previous council, passed this council. So in 2021, we started the actual working on it. The problem was it wasn't just us starting it. The first people to work on it was Columbia Gas. And I'm not going to put you on the spot, but sometimes Columbia Gas doesn't always tend to be the most adaptable to changing circumstances on things. And that's a very polite way of saying things. So they were running behind. They actually ended up running about 4 months behind. So that's why part of this process has taken as long as it has. Now what we're seeing is a lot more movement. The power lines are going to get ready to be buried. We're just waiting on AEP to make sure that they have everything ready to go to switch so nobody loses power and the most inconvenient of time. So we've got that going on. Memorial Plaza is basically done at this point in time. So the approach on the Main Street side is done, so you can park at Memorial Plaza from here on out on Main Street. And yesterday it looked like they were just doing the finishing touches on the Lancaster side. So Memorial Plaza will be open for parking, for public parking from here on out, which is a great thing, especially because next Thursday is Cinco de Mayo. And so here's a shameless plug for Tempeh Tacos. So next Thursday, Tempeh Tacos, starting at about 11 o'clock. The doors are going to be open. They're going to have music going on. They're going to have all sorts of things to celebrate Cinco de Mayo. So if you're out there, please go ahead and go out there. We're going to make sure everybody knows that you can park at Memorial Plaza, do your crosswalk onto the other side, and get that done. We also, in 2020, we did talk to the property owners of all those businesses along Main Street about working to fix the backside of it. I don't know if you've been back there anytime soon. It's not road. It's just kind of crumbles asphalt everywhere. That's actually each property owner's property. There's about 13 or 14 property owners that actually own their little sliver all the way down. So we tried to figure out a way to kind of combine a lot of that to build a more sustainable parking lot that the city would maintain. It just didn't work out that time. So we're going to try and do it again, starting with the project that's on the corner of Main and Lancaster, what we called, the Happy Dragon, or now what I'm calling the parking lot, which is the ice cream shop and the coffee shop and things like that. So it's going to extend some additional parking in that area, and then we hope to continue through and work with all those property owners back there and businesses to allow for a little bit of additional parking on the backside. A little bit further down the road, you'll see, starting around the corner at Jackson, you're going to see what they're doing is they're putting in a retaining wall. And that retaining wall is going to be there to help expand the sidewalk for all the businesses on both the north and south side of Main Street. So you can have expanded patio seating, you can do sidewalk sales, you can make it more pedestrian friendly, with the added benefit of kind of what they call a road diet, which is to narrow the road just enough to discourage the big trucks from Amazon and Ashley Furniture from necessarily coming down that road. Those big semi trucks, right now it's faster to go through Main Street, even with the construction, than it is to go on to 70 and 270, which is where most of them are headed in the first place. So that's part of what we're trying to do out there. In addition, once that development is done, the Trivium development will add an additional 39 total parking spaces in that general area just from their facility alone, with what we're working in conjunction with them. So that downtown parking is going to be solved very quickly. And again, by very quickly, I'm talking at the speed of construction, at the speed of government, and then things that I don't have control over, which again is the weather. So we are working really hard on that. Later today, I'm going to be out on site talking with the construction manager and a couple of the property owners, and we're going to kind of go through where we're at and where we're going with the construction. But one of the big things that I think everybody kind of forgets, the reason why those barrels are out in the way that they are and the way that they're designed is because the construction workers have to be able to be in an area that they know it's safe, that they don't feel that they have to look this way or this way every 5 to 10 seconds for safety purposes. So that's one of the things that's there. I mean, how many times have we seen stories throughout the years of construction areas where a worker gets hit and that's never a good thing. Right. So safety is going to be a paramount for it. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're trying to do for that particular part of Main Street. Now let's get to a little bit more fun stuff, unless we have any questions.
We wait for it. Go on.
Okay. So the fun stuff is this. So not next week, but the week after on council, we have our roads program. So I'm going to read off a list of all the roads that we are asking council to approve to go ahead and start construction on for next year. And all of these are, residential roads. I've mentioned a few of them before, but wanted to make sure that you knew exactly what's going on. The first one is going to be Taylor Road Southwest, and this will be from basically the Etna Township boundary line all the way to that intersection at 256. So all of that is going to be completely done. Virginia Court, Gladius Court, Cuthbert Court, Canada Court, and I know I have big fans on Cuthbert and Canada, making sure those get done. Crofton Place, Crofton Circle, Crofton Court, Reigate Court, Reigate Drive, and then Hill Ridge Road. We also have East Main Street in Oak Valley by the bus stop for CODA that we're working with to shore up that area. There's going to be the Livingston Avenue Fire Station. There's going to be some work done in that area as well. We are also going to be working at 256, the 256 ODOT section in the Franklin County side. So basically this would be around the area of around the 256 through Lancaster and Graham, that general vicinity. So I'll get those specific areas there. We are also asking council to go ahead and add a couple of other areas. There's a little spot in between Davidson and Haft where Davidson kind of went and then there was nothing, and then there's this little stop right up there, right before Haft, that needs to be done. We're going to do the park entrance to JFK. We will also have the Graham Road sidewalk that's going to be put in at Graham Road at the corner of the Livingston House from Graham and Palmer all the way to the 5-way that we'll be working with Franklin County. So they'll put in a pedestrian access bridge there, which again is going to be a lot safer. And we also have some improvements to our police parking area as well. So those are all things that are going to go before council. In addition to that, we're going to be going in and putting in, if council approves, we had this on Monday night, the discussion of speed tables. These things are interchangeable: speed humps, speed bumps, speed tables. Engineers come up with all sorts of fun things. These will be speed tables. Priestley Drive has had a lot of concerns over speeding over the years, and so over the past 2 years we've been working to come up with potential solutions. So this is one the council's looking at. These would be speed tables. You know, I know I've talked with Chief Sharps about this before, about the impact that it would have on, you know, your agency and other ones. So that is an option that is there. There are other streets, as you know, now everybody knows that, well, yes, there's speeding on Priestley, but there's always speeding on my street or in things like that. So we're establishing, you know, we've established over the last year and a half kind of a process. So the first thing we do is we send out the police with your speed here indicators, and we start trying to gather some data. We do it when you know we're looking, and then we have another device that's out there that tracks your speed when we know that you're not looking at us. So that way we get that together. And then we have conversations with the residents. A couple of roads that have come up would be some of the areas over by French Run Elementary School, Bryce Road north of Main Street, First Gate, Kingsley are a couple of other ones, Birchwood, things like that. So anywhere where there's kind of a straight road in Reynoldsburg, there's usually some conversations about that. So those are things that our Traffic and Transportation Committee would normally talk about, you know, when we have those meetings. I don't believe we're going to have a meeting tonight because we have nothing new, because everything really we've been focusing on Priestley Drive and the Roundabout. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Any questions on those particular items?
Just about events when you get to it.
All right, we'll get there. So those are all the fun things for there. So we did talk about a little bit, you know, dealing with some of the traffic issues on Main Street. I didn't know if you were aware of this. Licking County and Fairfield County are looking to expand Taylor Road and actually make an on-ramp onto 70.
I was not aware of that.
So that's, now you get, this is where you get all the fun news.
Yeah.
So they were talking about it, and then there's this company called Intel. I don't know what they sell, some kind of potato chip or something.
I think so. I think you're right, yeah.
So they're coming in, and that's going to change some things. So that's definitely accelerated this process. So these trucks that are coming in from Etna Township and from Intel, they can go a little bit east and they can go to 310, or then when they go west, instead of going through Main Street, now they'll actually have the opportunity to go in right on Taylor Road, and they'll be able to go right on to 70. So that process is starting. They put out $5 million just to design the interchange. I've heard that it's going to look very similar to what they're talking about, or what they've done at 315 and 23 and 270, where you have kind of that multiple ins and outs all the way through there. So that'll be something that if we get information, we'll go ahead and share with you as that kind of moves along. We do have also our Citizens Police Academy. We're going to gear that up again for a September 1st start. So if you're interested in that, check out our website. We have some flood grant information. Again, we're hoping to go for that site visit sometime this week to identify where we're putting our sensor that's actually going to monitor Blacklick Creek, and when it gets to a certain level when it rains, it'll send out text alerts to those houses that might be most impacted with it, so they'll be aware that there's a potential for flooding, and maybe it saves 20 minutes, maybe it's a 30-minute leeway just to find a way to get something out of the basement just in case there's issues. So that's something we're working with. I did mention Intel a little bit earlier. Intel's going to be a huge thing. So last Wednesday, I had an opportunity to talk with Senator Jay Hottinger, and this was after our meeting that we had with some of the Intel task force. It is going to impact Reynoldsburg. It's going to impact Reynoldsburg primarily in housing. It's also going to impact us in job development. We are the last stop before 70, so a real great opportunity is those trucks and everything that's going to be distributed come off of Mink Road into the Reynoldsburg area. They're going to come right through us, so we're going to work very hard to make sure we plan ahead and we deal with all those logistics of traffic, because what we don't want is lots of access from Intel until they get to our area, and then it bottlenecks because of traffic issues. So we're going to work to improve that and ask for about as much federal money as we possibly can. So a couple of events coming up. We have the Tomato Festival volunteer meeting on Tuesday at 7 p.m. here at City Hall. It's going to be one of the last couple of ones before we really kick into overdrive as we get ready for the Tomato Festival. We're also accepting nominations through the Reynoldsburg Community Association for the nominations for the Grand Marshal. Those nominations are due at the end of May, on May 27th. We have a Knights of Columbus cash drop coming up in 2 weekends at 256 in Taylor Road. And then we also have a new event this year to Reynoldsburg. This is going to be something that's going to be sponsored by the Reynoldsburg City Schools, Reynoldsburg City Community Association, the Reynoldsburg Chamber of Commerce. We also have the Reynoldsburg Visitors Bureau, and it's going to be the multicultural Reynoldsburg event at the Livingston campus. It's May 21st. It's going to be a great event. You're going to have music, you're going to have art, you're going to have dancing, you're probably going to have a little food out there, all sorts of things. But it's a great way to bring our incredibly diverse community together to kind of showcase what we all have to offer and how we can all kind of bring things together. So those are our big events that are coming up. And we had a question. Did I answer the question?
No, it's just
Okay.
we've had one of our community volunteers wanted to see if you would make an announcement about we're looking for vendors and sponsors for our Juneteenth and Pride celebration.
I wonder who sent that message in. So if you're interested in sponsoring our Juneteenth or Pride celebration, Juneteenth is obviously, it's going to be June 18th here in City Hall, in the city in Huber Park. On June 18th, please reach out to Jennifer Clemens so you can kind of get that organized. And if you're looking to sponsor or participate in the Pride event, that will actually happen 1 week later at Huber Park. Go ahead and reach out again to Jennifer Clemens with that. So 2 great city events that are in there to kind of showcase again what a great diverse culture we have here in the city of Reynoldsburg. I was hoping to tell you who our Thursday act is, but I can't right now because I'm still waiting for people to get their I's dotted and T's crossed on paper. It's not us, it's them. That's what I'm told anyway. But we do have our Friday act identified with Morris Day and the Time, and then our Saturday act is Plain White Tees. Really looking forward to all of those types of groups to come out there. As soon as we have our Thursday act, we are going to announce it. Hopefully before next week, because next week my guest is going to be, instead of behind the camera, she's going to be sitting here right next to me. Jennifer Clemens, our communications and events coordinator, is going to be here answering all sorts of questions. And she drew the short straw because May 4th is also a big Star Wars day. So we may or may not have some Star Wars props here with it. Just throwing that out there for you. So those are big things out there. And selfish plug here, I got to give congratulations out to the Reynoldsburg boys volleyball team for their big win yesterday. They ended up winning over Westerville Central in 3 sets, which was huge because just a few weeks ago, the story was significantly different. So the team has grown, they've gotten a lot better, and they're starting to believe in themselves. So they're on a roll now. So again, congratulations to them. And again, we'll welcome Jennifer next week to our show. Assistant Chief, I appreciate you coming in today. I thank you so much for everything. It's a great partnership with us. Want to make sure everybody works well together. Everybody out there, please stay safe, stay respectful. If you have questions about anything in the city, please message me. You know I'm out there. I see what's going on. Just send a message to us. We can take care of it. But most importantly, make sure you go ahead and put your shopping carts away. It is nice enough, but with the winds out there, you would hate those things to slam into your cars. So appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.